Hey, Boomer.
Oh, good morning, man. I'm telling you, we need hazard pay, and we don't even play football. I mean, between the Jets, the Giants, the Patriots, man, this is getting old.
No, not to mention you stuffed yourself on Thursday, and you're probably still feeling the effects of the turkey and the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and all that stuff.
I have to say that it's the first Thursday that I actually had a normal Thanksgiving in 23 years.
Yeah, right.
And I had it worse than Drew Lock did for the Giants. I mean, my 4-year-old granddaughter was bossing me around for 6 hours. I mean, Jesus. I'm like, this is what Thanksgiving is really like, man. This is tough.
Before we get to yesterday and the Patriots and the rest of the NFL, what do you make of what happened at the end of that Chiefs-Raiders game on Friday night?
Oh boy, what do I make? Are we kind of alluding to that the Chiefs are getting away with murder? Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess everybody else feels the same way too, unless you live in Kansas City, of course. I want to say that the Chiefs know how to win. I do not want to accuse the NFL of setting the Chiefs up for success. I don't want to say that. I want to believe in my heart that everybody is on the up and up, and I just don't want to go down that road. It's a dark road to go down. I understand why people are doing it. It's all over Instagram. Every anti-Chief fan, which is now pretty much every, all 31 organizations in the NFL. You guys know what that used to be like.
Yep, we lived it.
So they're right now in Patriot territory with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. I don't know what to tell you, man. It just seems too many weird things are happening in their favor. There's no question about that.
All right. Well, we won't go down that dark road, but is there a street light at the end of Route 1, which is the road outside where we are this morning, based on the fact that the New England Patriots are in that game with a 68-yard chance to win it at the end yesterday?
I think I would be happy if I were a Patriots fan just because of what my quarterback is doing. I mean, every statistical measure, they dominated the Colts yesterday. Anthony Richardson is kind of a wild card. You never know what you're going to get. You got 109 yards passing from him. He is all over the place throwing the ball. He's not very accurate. And on the other side, you got a legitimate, what looks to be like a quarterback that's going to be around for quite some time. And his success with a revolving door offensive line, an offensive line that makes way too many penalties, way too many mistakes, and he's still able to overcome it, to me, is the silver lining here in the Patriots season. They found their guy. Now they have to do what other teams in this situation have done, and that is spend money around him, draft around him, and hopefully, if not next year, then 2 years from now, the Patriots will be back in the playoffs. They will be back being a team that is going to be tough to be reckoned with.
Boomer, isn't it really about just, like, as you look through the league, isn't it more about the coaching? Like, even in the Chiefs-Raiders game, or whether it was the Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions game, it's just like some of these coaches at the end, like, why are you snapping the ball in that situation at the end of the Raiders game when it seems like your quarterback is not ready? And then you see the whole Caleb Williams disaster in Chicago. Isn't it a lot about coaching and some of the bad coaching that we've seen out there?
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, look, there are already 4 openings. I think there's going to be probably close to 8 openings, if not more. I think owners have a very, very short fuse. I think social media helps these owners make decisions. There's very few of them that really have the guts to go against what is a rising tide of negativity when it comes to this social media. And that's why if I am coaches like Antonio Pierce and Jerod Mayo, I'd be looking over my shoulder, because it's just the amount of losing that is going on in the NFL, the amount of lack of patience, I guess I would put it, for ownership is just it's really staggering. I mean, I don't ever remember it being like this and being this bad, but I also don't remember the coaching being this bad. I mean, Matt Eberflus has to call timeout after Caleb Williams takes a sack towards the end of the game. He cannot allow or expect that quarterback to go through the mental gymnastics of making sure that they have enough time on the clock to win the game or even tie it, I guess. But at the end of the day, he loses his job. It's just a matter of time before he lost his job. And that those decisions at the end of the games ultimately is where Bill Belichick always excelled. And a lot of these coaches really blow it, and that's one of the reasons why we have so many firings.
Boomer, you bring up drafting for the Patriots and their future and for Drake Maye. If the season ended today, they'd be fourth. Where would you go with that pick? What would you focus on?
Well, for me, I'm focused on offensive line and playmakers. I'm sure that internally they may be looking at edge rushers. You just never know until we get to the actual draft. They actually may even trade down to pick up more picks. But to me, it's now about the young quarterback. It's about building around him. It's about getting a stud left tackle. It's about getting a stud wide receiver, even though the wide receivers have improved significantly, over the last few weeks. Still, you got to have, that one guy that is putting the fear of God into other defenses and makes you play against your team differently. That's what happened when Randy Moss came to the Patriots. The moment he put on that Patriot uniform, all of a sudden defenses started playing the Patriots differently because you have such an impactful players on the outside. So to me, it's pretty easy. I'm building around my young quarterback. I got to get him players. I got to get him protection. And I certainly have to get him a playmaker down the field.
Boomer, we are now in the middle of a demand of fans wanting the head of Jerod Mayo. We did a poll before Thanksgiving. 7 in 10 said that they wanted a new coach. I find it to be a little bit too reactionary. Bill Belichick was 5 of 6 in losing seasons. 5 of his first 6 seasons as a head coach were losing seasons, and 3 of his last 4 here were losing seasons. Do you think it's too reactionary to think Jerod Mayo needs to be changed out?
I don't think Bill Belichick really had that much early on when it came to deal with when it came to social media. Gerard Mayo, unfortunately, and all these coaches nowadays do. The team is playing hard. I know they had a bad game in Miami last week. Every team in this league is going to have a bad game somewhere along the line. But it's hard for me to say that, he's the guy that's going to lose his job. But I just did say that most of these coaches are looking over their shoulders. The problem is going to be if there is an owner out there, like let's say Bob Kraft, and he's kind of wavering on what to do. That leaves a lot less candidates potentially if you wait. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of these teams are doing it so early, because they want to get out in front, and maybe they have identified coaches now that they think can lead their franchise. I was thinking, watching the Lions and the Bears, Ben Johnson, the offense coordinator for the Lions, is watching Caleb Williams right there in person, and he's got to be saying to himself, that would be the job that I would take. But I also think that Cliff Kingsbury will have an inside track for that job simply because he had Caleb as a quarterback at USC, where Caleb did flourish. So there are plenty of opportunities for a lot of these coaches. I just think that ownership nowadays has basically got a short fuse, and they'll pull the trigger if they notice anything going awry within their building.
Well, the Yankees brought Billy Martin back, so you never know what can happen.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I can tell you that.
And Antonio Brown coming back?
What about when it comes to coordinators like Alex Van Pelt or DeMarcus Covington? Are those jobs secure in your mind?
They're not. Nobody's job is secure in the NFL. I mean, it is the most insecure of all leagues. Maybe only hockey coaches get fired more often and more frequently than football coaches do. But I would think that everybody's job is on the line. And really, for me, I sense that Drake Maye has actually gotten better as the season has gone on. So the development of the quarterback is something that you got to take into account. And when you do watch him, you feel like he's got it. He's got the it factor. He's got the understanding of what they're trying to do offensively. And remember, he's shortchanged with players around him, especially his offensive line. So I'm not going to sit here and blame the offensive coordinator for any misgivings or shortcomings from the quarterback. I'm going to look at big picture. I'm going to say it's more about who's building the roster these days than anything else.
Speaking of Mayo coaching, surprised he didn't take a timeout during that final drive yesterday?
I'm not sure what goes on these sidelines with these coaches. You never know who they're talking to. I know that Ernie Adams was in the ear of Bill Belichick, and they were like on the same page and always would tell Belichick the situation, what's going on, what should we be doing here? Should we let the other team score so we can get the ball back and go and win? I remember doing one of their games out in Denver where that's exactly what Ernie and Bill did. I'm not sure who's talking to Gerard Mayo. You should ask him that.
Yeah, we should. We will.
Yeah. Because I think that's as important a relationship as there is, and it's usually one of their analytics guys that's in the head coach's ear during the game, giving him updates as to what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. So I don't know enough about that relationship to really comment on.
Boom. I look at it more of like the last situations of games, like what are these coaches thinking? You look at Anthony Richardson; he hasn't really done much throwing the football. So why not put pressure on him? Why not heat him up and not give him the ability to use his legs and make him have to throw the football? I just wonder what coaches are thinking in situations, and why does it look like it's so bad? Do you just think that these guys are not prepared for certain situations of football games?
You know what? I also think that there's a lack of practice time. I really do. I mean, that's one of the things that the owners gave up in their last CBA: less practice time on the field, less practice time or meeting time in the meeting rooms. And that was something that they gave up simply because it didn't cost them any money. And they'll continue to give it up. If the players said we don't want to practice at all during the week, but we want to add an 18th game, the owners would do that. And I do think that there's some really bad football that's being played. I mean, there are some really bad teams, and there's a lot of bad decisions that are being made late in these games. Even the top end teams in this league, I don't think are all that great. I mean, is there truly a great team in this league right now?
No, I don't see one. Yeah, I don't see one.
Question of the week for Boomer Esiason, brought to you by McFarland Energy, the region's most dependable provider of home heating, oil delivery, and expert HVAC services at McFarlandEnergy.com. Cheap shot or not on Trevor Lawrence yesterday?
100% cheap shot, and that player has done this before. He's done it a number of times, and he is I don't want to say an accident waiting to happen. He is literally going to kill somebody on the field. Somebody's got to do something about it. And there's no question in my mind that was 100% a cheap shot right to the head. And Trevor's given himself up. And I usually err on the side of, the defensive player's got to have some rights here as well. But given the history of Shahir's and his actions in past games, it tells me he knows exactly what he's doing, why he's doing it, and I hope he gets fined, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is suspended simply because he's done this, I think, at least 3 or 4 times before.
Did it to Caleb Williams.
Yeah, that was straight up dirty.
So
and his coach after saying that we don't teach that. So
Right.
I mean, even they're giving him up on his own team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think definitely suspension coming. It feels that way. I would think I don't know if it would be for the rest of the year, but at least for 2 games. But that was, I know what the defenses are told to do and what they think they should do. But when you make a decision like that, you almost decapitate somebody. There's no place in the game for that, especially when we all are a part of a brotherhood. Even though some of us may not like each other, we all are risking our lives and limbs out there on the football field, and I think you do have to respect that.
Well, Boomer, at least he didn't put a flag at the middle of the field and have a bunch of grown men lose their minds like children.
The flag planting.
Oh, man. Didn't that ever happen to you in high school, Wiggs, where
No,
maybe
I don't
try to do something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's all over the place now. The whole flag planting and fights afterwards. It's like, all right, you won the football game. There's no need to plant the flag in the middle of my field.
Were you surprised yesterday about the report about Aaron Rodgers being a long shot?
No, not at all. No, I think the ship is coming to an end here. I really do. I mean, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as soon as we open the show, just like we opened this one this morning, that, the losing here in New York with New York football is just, it is so bad. And, they score 21 points. He throws an interception. The game is in their hands. And the next thing you know, they don't even sniff the end zone the rest of the game. They were up 21-7, 7:40 to go, and he throws an interception to Leonard Williams, who, by the way, looked amazing running it back. And I just from that point on, the Jets were done. They were done. They had no chance. They didn't do anything offensively, and unfortunately, he looks like a 40-year-old quarterback.
Boomer, thank you, and we will talk to you again next week.
All right, guys, thanks.